think that there's a federal government solution to this. The issue of these mass violence, which is so tragic and it really breaks everyone's heart, ought to be, the main thing that we've seen up till now is mental illness. And we could do better probably identifying people before they go completely out of control. But there's this impulse to always solve a problem in Washington, D.C. Typically ends up taking rights away from law-abiding people.
Kind of a typical answer you'd expect from Jeb Bush there. One of the folks calling for folks who are on this terror watch list not to be allowed to buy guns if they can improve the terror watch list. That's the real question. Now, the San Bernardino shooting, it's reignited, of course, this debate about gun control. It's good to have you with us. John Bachman in for J.D. Hayworth. Meanwhile, 14 people are dead, 21 were wounded. And this certainly seems like the Pakistani-American shooter and his wife were inspired by ISIS or some sort of radical Islamic terrorism. Despite the obvious ties to terrorism, Democrats have called for increased gun control for all Americans. Many gun control advocates going so far as blaming the GOP and the NRA. Important to note, too, that the Daily News called NRA Executive Director Wayne LaPierre a terrorist on the front cover today. And for more on this, we welcome in former prosecutor and Second Amendment expert Alexandria Kincaid, also joining us, criminal defense attorney Geoffrey Nathan. It's great to have you both with us.
Good evening.
All right, the U.S. Senate rejected a bill that would prevent those on that terror watch list from purchasing guns, but the New York Times editorial board took Paul Ryan to task for defending Republicans who voted against that bill. Quoted the New York Times editorial board, Paul Ryan issued his party's weak defense of arming potential terrorism suspects on Thursday morning. Obviously a loaded term there. Quote, I think it's very important, and this is Paul Ryan, to remember people have due process rights in this country, and we can't have some government official just arbitrarily put them on a list. But it's not weak at all. The New York Times is just right, and this is why. Case in point, Jacqueline Rennell Charles. Jail was the last place the mother, wife, and churchgoer thought that she would find herself. But she spent 2 weeks there, according to the Sun-Herald, Biloxi, Mississippi's newspaper. The 50-year-old manager of a tax preparation firm spent a week in the St. Charles Parish Jail in Louisiana, then was hauled off to Mississippi, where she spent another week in jail. All the while, she kept telling officers they had the wrong person. For 2 weeks, she had no toothpaste or underwear, the paper reported. Authorities had the wrong Jacqueline Charles. The other woman had the same name and had been a fugitive for a long time. This just goes to show you the flawed nature of these government records. So, Geoffrey, how do you defend this terror watch list? We know it's flawed. How can this be accurately used to keep people from getting guns?
You probably can't. I mean, the reality is they already have the guns. And so the issue is how can you manufacture a safe gun so that the good guy can use his gun when he needs to and the bad guy can't when he wants to. So there, where I see it is it's a manufacturing issue. To legislate it, to think you're going to cure this with an act of Congress, that's just not going to happen, in my opinion. We need better manufacturing, in my humble opinion.
Alexandria, because Democrats are so reactive after these mass shootings, the big ones anyway, doesn't that just go to prove that they don't have a genuine interest in getting things done and they are just interested in a symbolic move here for political reasons?
I certainly think that's the case. It didn't take very long to have another call for gun control after this most recent act, even though now we know that this is very likely an act of terrorism. It's still a call for gun control. So, it's a political agenda.
Yeah, it certainly seems to be the case. There have been serious steps taken, I think, the Toomey Manchin bill being one, where they have tried to address some of these issues here. But, Geoffrey, other than these smart guns, which you just talked about, what do you think is the best way? Because we all can agree that, what's his name, Saeed Farouk, should not have had access to this amount of weapons. What do you think is the best way to prevent folks like him from getting their hands on this stuff?
Take it out of the hands of the politicians and give the gun control retailers more say and more screening power right at the counter. Look, they don't want to have this either. And they're the ones that are putting the guns in the hands of the criminals. And so if we gave them more leeway and more power to sell guns to people who really needed them in the circumstances when you had a wacko coming up to the counter and saying, I want to buy a gun, they might decline the sale. So I think what we need to do is give them more power, not restrict them. I also think it's unfair to say that any politician wants to see bloodshed on the streets of America. That's not right. This isn't a political issue. The politicians are not to blame. This is a worldwide and global problem that is only going to be solved at the manufacturing and retail level, John.
All right, Alexandria, last word to you, about 20 seconds. Doesn't the NRA, they keep talking about mental health, don't they have some sort of responsibility to offer up some funding to support that as well?
Does the NRA have the responsibility? No, absolutely not. This is a different problem with mental illness and recidivism. I saw it over and over again when I was prosecuting. People are in and out of the system and in and out of the system. It's an entirely separate issue, and it's certainly not the responsibility of the NRA.
All right, thanks so much. Great conversation. You guys heard more to come on this. Alexandria, Geoffrey Nathan, good to have you with us. All right, more to come. We're going to get to your comments. You can reach out to us, newsmaxtv.com/comments. And stay with us. We have Dr. Richard Land. He talks about a shocking new New York Daily News cover that has a lot of people talking. Coming right back.